Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So still working through the peacock's neck and chest here, as it's a very big area, so it's going to take me a while. But yeah, making good progress. I'm now past 16%, so it is going well. So the session may not be quite as long as usual, as I have to go pick up my kiddo at some point. Yeah, he went horse riding with his group, and the way to the stables is kind of hard to find and hard to explain, and I didn't want him to get lost, so because it's off of range roads and stuff that doesn't really show on the map kind of thing. So yeah, so he had to read out the directions while I drove, because yeah, the GPS isn't very accurate in that area. So but we found it, so it's all good. Yeah, and I sent him out in his rain jacket just in case, because the sky is a bit overcast, and the forecast doesn't call for rain, but I figure, hey, if I don't send him with his jacket, then it's going to rain, right? That's always the way it works. So figure take your coat, and then it'll be all good. So, all right, I may head back up a bit to carry on with this one. We'll see. Yeah, rather than splitting this section of color up, I may instead head back up a little bit and work my way down. I think that's what I'm going to do. So just finish this row first, obviously. Yeah, as I've said before, I generally try to do the bigger blocks as one big section rather than splitting it up so I don't end up with lines. I haven't had a problem so far, but yeah. I also find I think it goes a little faster when I'm going across the diagonals all together rather than splitting it up. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's just my imagination. Who knows? But that's just how I like to do it. So I'm going to switch to this navy blue thread here. Oh, I think that this one ended up with a knot on it. Yeah, it did too. Okay, so yeah, the knot is a little bigger than I'm willing to pull through my fabric and potentially cause problems. So just cut the knot out, and I'll add a new piece of thread when necessary. Yeah, there's a lot of this color, so I mean, I would have to add a new thread at some point anyway, since there's so much. So yeah, again, only about 2 to 3 colors in this area, so it does go by pretty quickly, which is always nice. Yeah, so I got my Majora's Mask. I finally got around to washing and ironing and mounting it, so it's all done and hung up. There's a picture on my Insta, and in my next update video, I'll try to remember to take it off the wall and show it to you during my, like I said, my update video. So, in case you're not on Insta and still want to see it, because not everybody is, of course. Okay, I think I can get these two here. Ooh, pardon me. So I find nowadays my ear only really makes a buzzing sound after I've been listening to music in my car. I don't listen to it that loud because like my other ear doesn't ring, but yeah, I guess it's loud enough that for about 20 minutes afterwards it's making its humming sound, and then it kind of goes away. So yeah, there is still something wrong with it, but at least generally I can ignore it now, because yeah, it used to be really loud that even with other noises on I could still hear it. It was very frustrating. And then yeah, I got a call from the ear, nose, and throat specialist, and they had to push my appointment even further. So now it's September. So I get my hearing test from different place, the audiologist, in the next couple of weeks. But then I don't get to see the specialist to discuss the results until the next month. So, ugh, yeah. Like, fortunately for Canadians, seeing specialists and stuff, it's generally covered, and we don't have to pay out of pocket for it, thankfully. But yeah, the waiting lists are, ugh, you can wait months, even over a year sometimes. It's not great. Yeah, the first time my husband had a hernia, it took him months just to be able to get in for the surgeon to take a look at him, because he went to see our, family doctor who referred him to the surgeon. And yeah, he had to wait months for that. And then after the surgeon had seen him, he had to wait months again for there to be an open operating room. So yeah, that sucked. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that sort of gets worse the longer you leave it. So yeah, like he said, the little bump was like barely noticeable when he first went to the doctor. It wasn't painful, he just didn't know what it was. And yeah, but by the time he finally got into the surgery, it had gotten much bigger. So yeah, but thankfully that's all been fixed now. Yeah, and then the day of his surgery ended up being pushed for several hours because a trauma came in. So obviously, yeah, that gets, but you get bumped for an emergent situation, which I understand. Someone's in an accident, obviously they have to take first priority. But yeah, it does kind of suck when you've been waiting for months and then you've got to wait more hours, and of course you're starving because you've had to fast. And yeah, oh gosh, I remember when I worked in the food court and there was a guy there and they thought he might be having a heart attack, and so they were calling an ambulance for him. And then one of the people came over and was like, can I have some food to feed it on? And I said, well, no, we shouldn't do that. And they thought I just didn't want to give him any because it cost money. I said, well, no, but he shouldn't be eating because he might need surgery. And they want you to fast before surgery. Oh, look at that, I parked that wrong. Yeah, good thing for grid lines. Yeah, I parked that next to. Okay, that's okay, I can fix that. Anyway, but yeah, so they argued and argued with me, and finally they overruled me and took some noodles to him. And I just thought, well, I really hope that if he does need surgery, that doesn't complicate things, because yeah, there's a reason why when you have surgery scheduled, you have to fast after midnight or only have a little bit of clear fluid or whatever. Obviously, in an emergent situation, they can't wait, but yeah, ideally, they want your stomach to be as empty as possible so there is less chance of complications. But yeah, they wouldn't listen to me. I was 19 years old, so what did I know, right? Even though it was like, well, actually, I had retaken my first aid certification the year before, but yeah. So yeah, I never did find out what happened to that guy. I hope he was okay. Like, it wasn't the dramatic, you see movies, clutch your left arm and fall to the ground. But yeah, he wasn't in good shape either, poor guy. So yeah, like I said, I hope it turned out okay. Yeah, they say that's one of the problems, is people might not realize that they're having a heart attack because they expect it to look like the movies, Lots of things like that. Yeah, the movies make it dramatic because, of course, right, provokes more emotion and interest or whatever. But yeah, reality is often not like that. Okay, so yeah. do with this thread? Okay, yeah, so I've got one part here and one part here, so I'm gonna, and I've got one part up here, so they're gonna kind of all just travel around in different ways till they get used up, but that's okay. I don't mind that. So yeah, kiddo wanted to drive himself, but I said, well, I don't want you getting lost, you know, because the first time we went out there, we did get lost, and fortunately we left early enough that we weren't late, but yeah, it was frustrating, so. Yeah, and it helped because then he read the directions, because yeah, you don't want somebody looking at their phone while they're driving. That's a big no-no, so. Okay, this one is not very long, so it won't interfere with the other threads I have parked because it will be used up pretty much right away. Okay, back down to this. Yeah, this was pre-pandemic, but my husband's work had one of those sort of team building days or whatever on a Saturday, so we were out to a place that had horses and went riding, and yeah, my horse liked to sort of plod after everyone else and then suddenly trot to catch up, so yeah. Yeah. It was funny. They warned me about that before I was on him, but yeah. Yeah, that was fun. They took, our son wanted to go on his own horse, so they had him on a lead rope for a while, but yeah, they said he handled it really well, so after about 15 minutes, they took it off and let him continue on. And of course, they gave him one of their most, you know, gentle, calm horses, so yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat, though, because they had a small, almost like little historic-looking town, and yeah, they had cabins that you could actually rent out to stay over with, you know, wood-burning stove and everything, and it's kind of neat. Yeah. And then sort of they had a little old-fashioned looking general store where they sold candy and studs, souvenirs and stuff. Yeah, it was quite fun. Okay, so I'm going to go back up a bit, and I'm going to add a new thread here for those. Oh, I need to grab a completely new one from my box. Yeah, this is another one that I'm just blasting through. Yeah, still got over 7,000 of this color left. Come on, there. Sometimes the strands in there don't want to separate very easily. Yeah, so this is like the shadowy side of his neck here, so it's darker colors here. We didn't get caught in a maze of road construction either. Yeah, lately I've been having to take different routes home because it's the season of road construction, so yeah. There's usually several different streets I can take to get out of our neighborhood, and like 3 of them were torn up, so yeah. Well, they do say taking a new route once in a while is actually good for your brain. I remember that being sort of recommended, is take a different way home every now and then, and it helps exercise your mind because you have to pay more attention than just your, driving home almost on autopilot. Yeah, this is a bright color, but I know it's going to be covered up by the navy, so I'm not worried about it showing through. Otherwise, yeah, with these really bright colors, I often draw them along the back, so there's no risk, but I don't have to worry here. Okay. So again, we got some skinny little runs of color here along this edge. Yeah, I find when I stitch this way without leaving gaps, this looks neater, because I used to sort of stitch all of one color and then fill in with the next color around it. And I found if I had these rows and then the gaps in between, it was harder to stitch between them without, getting your stitches looking kind of wonky. So that is why I do it that way. I also found too, with doing all of one color, it was harder to keep count. Whereas here, if there's a missing gap, I know I did something wrong right away. Yeah. Yeah, there's a crow in my yard lately that super loud. Yeah, around 5 in the morning. I have to turn my brown noise up louder to drown him out, because yeah, I could still hear him otherwise. Ugh. At least they're not still trying to nest right outside our bedroom windows, so there's that. Because yeah, we were having that issue at first. I was like, they were extra loud then. Yeah. I actually think I may repark that. We'll see. I'll decide when I get there. Yeah, because I may cut off that blue there rather than having to go all the way sort of back up to fill in, or I might go out of order. Sometimes I do that by, oops, I'm at the bottom of this run, not the top. Sometimes I do that, yeah, just because I don't want to travel so far up and down the diagonal, so sometimes I do one out of order. We'll just see what I do when I get there, but I think, yeah, I may actually repark that one. I'll do these first, though, then I'll decide. What I may actually do, yeah, rather than reparking that, I'm going to split up the navy blue a little bit. So I'm going to do this stitch that is right here above that parked one. Oh, that. I could feel as soon as I pushed that through the fabric that was wrong because there was too much resistance on the needle. So I'd actually pierced the fabric thread instead of going through the pre-made little hole there. Okay, and then I will park that there. So yeah, I'm going to kind of just do along this navy blue without doing a ton of the navy blue yet. I'm going to do that when I do the next sort of downward pass. So that's why I decided to wait until I got there and see what I was going to do rather than reparking it right away. Because once I got there, yeah, I discovered there was a way around it. So okay, this is really only long enough for one stitch, so I'm going to park it a little ways away, but then that way this one lone stitch here, I won't have to either go out of order or add another thread there. So, okay, let me just take a look at what I want to do here. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to do any more further upwards for now. I'm going to just cut it off here and carry on downwards. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna unthread that because actually it's gonna be a while till I get to it, I think. And also it's a short piece and those tend to just come unthreaded anyway on their own, so yeah, not much point in leaving the needle on. Well, it looks like this is actually going to run out right when I run out of stitches in this little section here, so love when it works out like that. It's always nice. Carry this one upward till it runs out. So yeah, as I've said before, my method is kind of like doing a puzzle. Figuring out how to fit all the little shapes together. Okay, so color here. Yeah, closing in on 50,000 total done. Woohoo! Won't make it today, but yeah, getting there. So I just got to keep my eye on the time so I don't forget to get kiddo. Yeah, I can get really absorbed in what I'm doing and lose track of time quite easily. So yeah. When my son still needed to be picked up from school, if I knew I was going to get into something that was really absorbing, I'd actually set an alarm so that I wouldn't miss the time, because yeah, when I get hyper focused on something. I remember when I was a kid in school one time, and I was reading a book, and we were supposed to be going over to the corner for the teacher to read to us, and everybody's yelling at me, and I honestly didn't hear them because I was so absorbed in a book. Somebody had to come over and actually put their hand on my shoulder and shake me to get me out of it. But yeah, I didn't hear a thing. It can be kind of nice to be able to focus like that sometimes when you want to, but then at the same time, or not even when you want to. I mean, I don't really control it, but yeah, then it kind of sucks because it's like you forget to eat, you forget to drink, you forget everything. Yeah, so that's the problem is I can hyper focus, but I can't really choose what I hyper focus on. Yeah, one time I remember I was reading and my husband came home and I'm like, oh, hello, dear. And he says to me, oh, got into a accident. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then a minute later, wait a minute, what did you say? It was like I totally didn't register at first. Yeah. It was a fender bender, so thankfully it wasn't bad. But yeah, and he's like, did you hear me? And I'm like, wait a minute, no, I didn't. Yeah, because that's actually not nice. That sucks. All right, this one is not going to last very long, but I'll just use it until it runs out. Yeah, he was at a four-way stop and somebody didn't stop. They stopped and they paused and they looked one way and then they pulled out without looking the other way, and yeah. I think that's all I'm going to get from this. The strand is starting to get really twisty and worn thin, so I'm not going to stitch anymore with it, even though I could have probably got another couple stitches, but yeah. You don't want them looking fuzzy on your finished piece, so there's that too. Yeah, that's why I stitch with lengths that are about 36 inches and then I double it, so it's 18 inches. Yeah, you don't want it too long or it's more prone to tangle or get very worn and thin by the time you've got to the end because it's been pulled through the fabric so many times. So, but of course you don't want to cut it too short either, so you got to find your happy medium. I like to, oh dear, what a mess. Speaking of tangling, see, I jinxed myself. Yeah, what I like to do is I unwind the entire skein and I fold it in half 3 times so you have 8 equal pieces. Yeah, which is nice. Then they're kind of standard. Actually, I saw in a group somebody said they did that when they are kitting up multiple projects because they will actually, because they cut their you know, into 8 equal pieces like I do, so they can put just what they need instead of an entire skein of thread into an envelope or whatever for that project, which I thought was brilliant. Because some people, they said they just buy multiples, but I mean, if you've only got like 30 stitches of a color, you know, in a project, it seems kind of a waste to buy an entire, you know, skein of thread if you're not going to need the whole thing. So, and I mean, in some places they can be really expensive too. Yeah. Like here, it's not too bad. They're about 70 cents a piece, but yeah, I know in some countries they said they pay like $2 to $3 a piece. And so yeah, you don't want to be buying extras that you don't need at that point because yeah, that can really add up. I don't do separate envelopes for each project. I just have one master set and then I pull them as I need them into the tub and transfer them if I'm switching projects. Then I'm going to do these as well. That way I can do all these ones that are in a line below it. Might as well, rather than splitting it there. I don't worry so much about it being a straighter line when the color is actually going that line anyway. So with the 2 color changes next to each other, if there is a line, it's not really that noticeable, I find. Yeah, as I said, when there's fewer colors, it goes by quickly. As you can see, we're closing in on 200 done in, you know, way less than an hour, so that's nice. Yeah, I'd love if I could make that kind of progress through confetti too, but yeah, that's just not going to happen. Oh, I did park that, but I just forgot to mark it, but that's okay because I can use it right away anyway, so no problem. Yeah, fortunately my throat is a lot better today. Yeah. Still smoky, but less pollen, because, yeah, the combination of the two was not good. Ugh. Yeah, because the problem I said was I was kind of stuffed up, and then I had to breathe through my mouth most of the night, so that definitely didn't help my throat. Ugh. Thankfully, yeah, that was not a problem yesterday, so... Yeah, it was funny. I had to tell Kiddo last night, don't stay up too late because you guys have your horse riding the next day at 10. Yeah. It's like 10 is plenty late, but you know, when you're a teenager, not necessarily. Yeah, I remember in the summers, that's how late I would sleep in whenever I got the chance. Ugh. Just going to use a small piece here for these stitches, and then I'll add another big one on the other end when I get to it. Yeah, I like to have my thread sort of come from the outside in. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, it's just my preference. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm right-handed or whatever, but yeah, that's just how I've always preferred to stitches from the right side to the left and back whenever I can. Yeah, but I mean, there was people saying, like, do I have to start in the, you know, upper left-hand corner? It's like, yeah, no, you can start wherever you want. It is completely up to you. I used to always start there when I worked from paper because I was paranoid about grabbing the wrong pattern page. Because, yeah, page 1 is, you know, right in the left-hand corner. That's going to be correct no matter what. So that always worked for me. And then I just got used to it. So, because, yeah, I remember in, like, when I first started learning and using a kit, they tell you you always have to start from the center so your pattern is centered. But now that I have a grid, I can tell if the grid is centered or not. So, since I stitched it on myself. So I know I won't run out of space. Because, yeah, that's always the fear, that you'll run out of room if you didn't count it properly. Oh, I saw somebody had done that in a group I was in, and it was on a supersized max color. And they miscounted it, and they would have been missing about 20% off of one side. And there was a lot of detail there that they wanted included. So, yeah, it was unfortunately, you know, they were 20,000 stitches in, but it was a start over. It was like, oh, that was heartbreaking because I know just how much work that was. I mean, I've never even done a max color myself, so yeah. Yeah, that was, I felt so bad for them. Like I said, my worst mix-up was on the first try of this pattern where I accidentally used 01 white tin instead of white, and you know, 10,000 stitches later it was wrong, but at least it was 10,000 stitches of mostly one color, so it wasn't as much work down the drain as, you know, 10,000 stitches of confetti with all those different colors. That's a lot more work, so yeah. Sounded funny. No, it's okay. All right, just making sure there wasn't a knot on the back there because it sounded like it almost wanted to form one. Yeah, I can often tell because instead of a nice smooth sound it. Yeah, you can hear it kind of drag and catch, and then can give you a tip off that something is not quite right. Well, the sun's coming out, so that's nice. Yeah, at least it wasn't a super hot day today, so hopefully the conditions were fairly pleasant for riding. Yeah, it had rained quite a lot the last few days, so he went in rain boots because, yeah, it's very muddy. Because, yeah, I one time went in shoes in those conditions and the mud kept sucking my shoes right off my feet. Oh, that was not fun. I was lucky I was able to keep my balance and not fall on my behind. Okay. Oh yeah, we are well past 200 stitches now. So woohoo. Yeah, I didn't get like any stitching done yesterday because I was busy dealing with my finishing of Majora's Mask, but I'm happy that's done now. I was kind of annoyed though. I had to buy like a towel rack bar to hang it off of and not a curtain rod because it's smaller. And curtain rods sort of go to 28 inches at the smallest, and the finished design on that was like, 18 or whatever. So yeah, I went to get a towel rod, which is much small. It can go to a much smaller size, which is fine, but I didn't realize the magnetic part that I didn't need to use was actually attached to the bar, because the one I bought before, I made a little wall hanging as a wedding present for a relative, and I used a towel bar then, and it had like the magnetic hooks, and then the towel bar would rest on it. Well, this one, the hook part is like part of the bar, and I didn't realize till after I'd bought it and ripped open the package and everything. I was like, oh. So yeah, I'm gonna have to ask my husband to cut those off, the magnets off, but it shouldn't be that problem. I mean, it's basically plastic, so yeah. So I hung it up on a different rod temporarily so I could take a picture of it, and then it'll go on its proper rod after he fixes that for me. That's what I get for not looking closely enough and just assuming it was the same. Yeah, it was like the other day I went and bought cream cheese spread for bagels, and I got home and realized it was the low-fat stuff, and I don't like that kind. It's like, darn it. I mean, it wasn't open, and I suppose I could return it, but I was just too lazy to do that, so I'll just have to use it up. Oh, the one that sucked the most was I bought myself a 20-kilo bag of rice, so it was, 44 pounds or something, and I bought the wrong kind, and of course, again, did not realize till after I opened the package, and there's nothing wrong with it, so I know, I can't return it to the store just because, I don't like it, so, I'm still using it up, like, 4 years later. It's like, darn it. I ended up accidentally buying parboiled rice, yeah, which I'm not really fond of, so I end up, now when I make it, I mix it with the rice that I do like so that it's not, yeah, it's kind of like covers it up, the taste. Oh dear. Yeah, so I have to make sure that I actually read the labels instead of assuming I grabbed the wrong one. It's a bad habit. Actually, I can keep stitching with that one before I have to switch colors again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this blue, I'm probably going to start staggering it a little bit so that I don't have to fill in all the stuff above it right away. So, like I said, I try to go across in one go, but sometimes I end up splitting it up just for my own convenience. Oops. I may not even stitch with that color for a bit because... Oh, what have I done here? Oh, I missed one right there. Yep, I marked it, but I didn't do it. Okay, well, that is okay because I think I have perfect a short piece that is only long enough for one stitch anyway. So I will just fill that in because, yeah, I was supposed to curve it around, but I forgot. I went on autopilot and forgot I was doing this extra stitch in the row below. But no worries. This is why I save these little pieces. There's always a place to use them later. Either for scattered stitches by themselves or because I screwed up like just now. There we go. Okay. Yeah, because I saw as soon as I picked up this thread here, there was a blank stitch to the side of it, which I knew was not supposed to be there. Didn't match what I had on my pattern, so then I knew I'd made a mistake. So I think I got about 10 minutes and then I'm gonna have to call that a day so I can go and pick up my kiddo. So next time they go there, I think he'll know the way so he can drive himself and it won't be an issue. Yeah. Ooh. Oh dear. 'I can hear the wind is picking up there and making my windows pop. $250 stitched today already. Yeah. So I didn't get any stitching done yesterday, but I think today's going to be a productive day since it's this big blocks here. Because, yeah, the other day I was stitching on his neck and chest and I got like 700 done that day, so. Yeah, well, like I said, when there's only like 4 colors, yeah, it goes real fast. Oh, darn. That's why that looks loose. Because I ended up with a knot back there and I didn't notice. Darn. Okay. Let's see. Okay. See if I can just do this without having to rip back. Oh no, that looks funny. Okay. Ah, darn. I hate when that happens. Let's see if I can smooth this out nicely. Ah, darn it. Okay, there. That looks better now. Yeah, as I was stitching, I noticed one of these stitches was not sitting quite right, and that was because, yeah, there's a loop on the back, so everything wasn't nice and taut the way it should be. Okay, that's better, so let's try that again. Oh, there it goes again. My gosh. Pesky piece of thread. There's a little bit of a fuzzy end coming through there. Okay, park this one here. I'm actually going to start another thread right here. Let's see how long this one is that I have parked down here. Not terribly, that's what I thought. Okay. I'll do these ones that I've highlighted, and then that will have to be where I call it a day. Yeah, it's like I said, wasn't going to be quite as long of a session as I usually try to aim for, but not too terribly short either. So hopefully you enjoyed it. And then I will be back in a few days with another new session, and I hope you will join me for that. All right, so one more stitch. So yeah, good progress again, even in a shorter time frame. Yeah, 279, quite happy with that. Yeah, so as usual, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.